Talking with the experts.
Rich Kozak speaks about the best way to keep brand creative, on track and on budget in episode 309.
Anyone who's listening, who is a one-person business or a very small business, this process that I'm talking about is 7 steps. And we name them easy names. Step 1. Okay, there I have other names, but there's only 7. Okay. And the first 2 you could actually do with your eyes closed by yourself. You don't need anybody. And so people ask, wow, what can I do right now? Well, you can do those right now. And if you ask me, Rose, I'll give folks a way to get a thing that says, here are the 7 steps, and there'll be a page for each step, and it'll be my voice talking to them saying, do this, and think about it this way, and it will get them going, and it will
Wonderful.
Change the way you think about branding you.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And I'm very pleased to introduce you to Rich Kozak. And Rich is going to speak with us in plain, ordinary language that each of us laymen can understand. Now, Rich is actually going to be talking to us about the best way to keep brand creative. And Rich is the author, brand architect and strategist, coach, trainer of Rich Kozak, and shares inspiration and the best brand creative guiding method from his 45 years of defining and languaging brands, then launching them. Welcome, Rich. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Rose, for making me welcome. It's a delight to be here with you and to share tips and thoughts with your listeners that they probably would not hear somewhere else, and could be a blessing to their business and also to their life.
Absolutely. Now, brand and branding, before we get started on anything, are 2 different things. Now, people often get them confused because they have the name brand in them. But could you please explain what the difference is between brand and branding?
Don't think this is going to take a long time. This is going to be very simple. A brand is a perception, but it's not your perception. It's everybody else's perception of, in every one of your listeners' case, whatever you do, whatever your business is, or your work is, or your gift is, or your calling, whatever, however you look at it, whatever you do, people perceive you because of the way you show up, the way it comes across, the language you use, what they hear. And that perception is the brand. Branding is everything you get to do to create a consistent, accurate perception that serves you and moves your brand and that's forward.
Absolutely.
So that's it. Brand is a perception, but you don't control it unless you do. And branding is everything you get to do to create that perception. So hopefully that's it. I've got one more for you that is really important. Marketing.
Yes.
Ready? One word. Execution. Now, it might not be as ooh-off for someone from Australia, but I sat as an elected officer on the board of directors of the American Marketing Association International for 4 years. I use one word in my work to describe marketing, and it's not demeaning, it's clarifying, it's execution. Marketing and everything I've done in my career is a piece of marketing. And if we had lots of time, I would share all that so you know who's talking to you. I've been defining and launching brands for 45 years. And every aspect of that, 20 of those, I ran an agency with partners in 21 countries. I'm a certified branding consultant. So I can talk for way too long about any aspect of marketing. Marketing at its best, and I mean that to revere it, lift it up, is the execution of an excellent branding strategy. So don't you kid yourself for a minute, every one of you listening. When somebody is trying to sell you a marketing service, they will use the word branding. They will say, this will be good for your branding. This will strengthen your brand. Okay. If you ask them to light a match and tell you exactly how to make a brand come alive before the match burns their fingers, you're going to smell burning flesh because I'm sorry, that was kind of gross. But seriously, people use the word brand and branding as a buzzword, but they don't know how to do it. They couldn't create a roadmap of becoming a brand if their life depended on. I mean, they give it a good try if their life depended on, but they're not trained. They don't have experience. And all I've been doing for most of my career is teaching the steps. When I was with the agency, we taught them to big companies. My biggest client was a $14 billion company. Today, I quit branding. I quit big boy branding and changed my prayer and said, Lord, I'm resigning my addictive career to reshape my life. Show me what you want me to do. I'm ready. And I thought, I don't do branding anymore. I love it. I realize now it's a gift, but I resigned a career because I was working for somebody and it was a lot of stress and I loved it, but and today I only work with individuals like the people who are listening right now. You might be one person in your business, or maybe you have a VA, maybe you have 10 employees. But if you have created something, even if it's a service, even if you work for another company, you're a real estate agent. The brand is you. Let's not kid around. And it's why you, what makes you unique? Why do you do what you do? What's in your heart when you're doing what brings you joy? Those are things that make a brand come alive when they're consistently languaged in language that transfers energy. So those are three definitions: brand, perception, branding, all the things you get to do to create that consistent perception, and marketing, execution of an excellent branding strategy. Who are you? What do you stand for? And what vision do you have for those whose lives you'll touch? If you're talking to someone that you know you can really make their life better or help them or bring them something with what you do, and you say, this is what I see for you, and you make that clear, you have a magnet. Most brands don't. Okay. Most brands fall flat. And I'm talking to you individuals, no matter what you do, or you have a company. And I still have clients who run companies. They integrate software or they produce uniforms that keep people safe when they work in dark places. But most of my clients now are individuals who have a gift or a calling or something that really brings value to other people. And that's what drives them. They want to touch more people. They might have done something for 30 years and they want to leave it as a legacy, or they want to take it to another level, but they don't know how to build the level, and they don't know what branding is, but they know they need it because the world tells them they need it, but they don't know whom to trust. They don't know who can be so excited about what they do that it can come in their skin and listen to their heart. And that happens to be my gift. And I used to think it was my skill. It's my gift. And I thank God for it every morning. I connect with people. I hear their hearts. We envision possibilities. We create language that's unique to them so that the brand is them. My mother was an English teacher. She would say, honey, it's a predicate nominative. The brand is they, but nobody talks like that. So the brand is them. Okay, the brand is they. It is a predicate nominative. You have those in Australia. I know you do. I've seen them. Okay. But people are trained by the world to think branding is a brand is something that gets slapped on you. Oh, here's your brand. Oh, we've created a brand for you. And now you have to kind of become it. Wrong-o.
No, it should be the other way around.
It is, when it's at its best, it is the other way around. Think of a concept. Everyone has all these pieces of them. You might play cello. You might be a mom. You might be a wonderful auntie. You might play, soccer. You might be a wonderful canasta player. You might be the CEO of a nonprofit. You might be all these things. Which one is the brand? Like, I'm not sure what my brand is. You know how many people are just regular people and they have all these dimensions or the things they've done and they're unclear about how to brand themselves. I'm going to give you peace. The concept is called an umbrella brand. And it comes from writing down those impacts you clearly see making on specific types of people when your brand thrives. And then we define the brand you must become to make those impacts. And guess where you get faster? The impacts. But guess where else you get? The money. And like, people think about branding as it's all about the money. If you make it about the impacts, you get there faster because you're attracting exactly what you must attract to make those impacts on people. And you'll attract lots more than you write down. It's not like you're cutting yourself off from the, people get weird. But I better finish that sentence. People get weird when the topic of target audiences or what gurus and word trickers talk about avatars and niches and niches, if they want to be if they want to take on an they call it niche. It's or a micro niche. You've heard them all. Okay, people they get frustrated, they get confused that you have to like pick those or build them, like, okay, and you have to like construct them. No, your heart knows them. Yeah. Like, we just go to your heart, we pick a couple, maybe 3, 4, 7. I have one client that's 13 because she's a world-class certified financial planner, investment fiduciary, and a doctor of jurisprudence. She's an attorney. And she works with really successful families who have businesses. And she takes care of all of those things that are financial and insurance and all those things. She doesn't sell services. She just makes sure that all that stuff is taken care of so that the family can continue to create a legacy that it passes on to the family. And they can live their best life and be as creative and as contributive as they choose to be. Praise God. That's amazing. And we created a brand called Money, Truth, and Life for her to give it back, putting it online, people that can't afford her. Sometimes people that have a gift want to give it as a legacy and want to teach others so that it continues. Sometimes people just created something and they know they needed a brand, and they want to do it right the first time, but they don't know what right is, and nobody's going to teach them how. They're just going to sell them stuff. That's the world. Marketing service sellers, and use the word branding as an enticement, but they don't know how to do it, and they won't teach it because nobody taught them. And so you got this weird situation. Anyone who's listening, who is a one-person business or a very small business, this process that I'm talking about is 7 steps and we name them easy names. Step one. Okay, there I have other names, but there's only 7. Okay. Uh, and the first 2 you could actually do with your eyes closed by yourself. You don't need anybody. And so people ask, wow, what can I do right now? Well, you can do those right now. And if you ask me, Rose, I'll give folks a way to get a thing that says, here are the 7 steps, and there'll be a page for each step, and it'll be my voice talking to them saying, do this, and think about it this way, and it will get them going, and it will
Wonderful.
change the way you think about branding you and what a brand is for an individual. What does that really mean? I want you to know that it's 100% you. It actually, impact-driven branding, which is the sign you see behind me. It's actually the name of my publishing company, Impact-Driven Publishing Company. Rich Brands is the name of the business that helps, guides people, coaches people. We have half days every couple months, the branding you with impact, to kind of get people to think differently about branding themselves as a brand, what that really means, and why defining and languaging a brand gets you out of the chute so much faster and gives you such a stronger start and eliminates problems. Or if you don't define and language a brand, what are those problems? And when they see that, it's a pretty clear picture. And
so
then,
what is the best way, Rich, to keep a brand creative, keep it on track, and keep it on budget?
Those are 3 different, creative, on track, and on budget. Let's take on track first. Okay. On budget is easy. On track is not so easy, but it's easy if you do the right things. There has to be a track. That's the problem. You can't be on track if you don't have a track. So imagine if a process defined the characteristic, descriptor words that the brand must get credit for to make its impacts faster. You have to get credit for those words. And let's say one of them was, I just came off a client call with a client in Houston about 15 minutes ago. And before him, I had a client in Long Island, New York. And they both have been through Brand Accelerator Group, which does all these 7 steps in about 8 weeks, 7 days, over 8 weeks. And they both have a list of characteristics. And let's say one of those characteristics might say, creating calm. One gentleman, his brand is called the Center of Calmness. He has a method that eliminates stress and anxiety that a person can use themselves. He's corporate. He has an anxiety condition from childhood, created a way to rid himself, and he shares it worldwide now. But he's still in corporate. Okay. So one of his is creating calm. Well, in what ways must his brand create calm? It creates calm in the language it uses. It creates calm in the visuals that it shows on first impression, photography, logo, homepage above the fold on the website. It creates calm. Literally, it must do that. Okay. Imagine if you had that list. It creates the culture of the brand, gives you language that you can use to, it is a track. It literally makes the brand come alive, but it's not something that somebody thought up. It's something that came from you, and it is you. It is the brand. So it's like, woo, that's kind of cool. What if you had a list of categories of expertise, and maybe you've written a couple of your own in language that no one's ever used before, common English words, but now it says the woman speaking tonight is an expert at creating energy balanced environments that build harmony and support people who live or work in that environment? Well, no, the woman speaking at the conference tonight is an expert at energy balance environments that support and people who live or work in those. It's like, wow, is that really a category? Yeah, because we wrote it, because it's her. It is she. That is exactly, she's been doing this in the 1990s. And people rave, you should read the testimonials, but she's not getting credit for it because she didn't know how to say it. So I'm going to ask every listener, what are you, and there are three questions. How do you make sure the brand stays on track? How do you make sure a brand is creative? And how do you make sure a brand stays on budget? So we're talking about staying on track. Imagine if you had a language that was unique to your brand, that gave you credit for what you must get credit for to make your impacts faster. And it gave you credit for what you're really good at that you're not really getting credit for right now. You're outstanding, but nobody realizes how outstanding. What if you had that language right now? And the language, the words transfer energy, meaning people go, I want, I have to go, but can I have your card? You know what? You know that it's transfer energy. It's not like, well, this is what I do. And they go, oh, okay. That's fall flat. Okay. So stay on track is, how do you best stay on track? You create the track. If you have 3 or 4 or 5 categories of expertise in priority order that you must get credit for, well, those are going to come from language. And so you have titles and subtitles of content that give you that different angles on that expertise that give you credit. So when people go into the content, the brand gets credit for those. That is in the world of what content do we use? We have to post things. We have to write things. We have to put things on our website. What do we use? If you have the cutest puppy in the world, please don't use it unless it's congruent with the brand. I'm just saying, like, people do the dumbest stuff because they need content. Imagine if you had it all in front of you and it would take you out 3 or 4 years, titles and subtitles of content that you could use for everything from a book chapter to a YouTube training, to a multi-series post on some social media or a multi-part blog on your website. And you had all that. And it was in the language of your brand. That's how you stay on track, by defining and languaging the brand up front. You can't get off track because there is a track and the language is there. You continue to use consistent language that transfers energy. You do not, we should be talking about what you do, but let's talk about one of the do nots. A very common thing is to say the same thing. What do you do in 6 different ways? Picture you going to a network meeting and you meet 6 different people in a row and you explain what you do 6 different ways. I'm here to tell you, stop it. It's confusing. You're confusing yourself. If most people, I find, because they come to me and they cry for lack clarity about what they do and what makes it unique and how to say that. When that clarity is there, it usually comes from being clear about whom you're going to impact and those pictures you see for them when they let the brand in. This is what I see for you. I know it's difficult. Take my arm. We'll take you there. You make that picture clear, you're a magnet. And the way you do that is with image and with words and with your heart. And so if you're faking it, if you're not going to, it's just not going to work. And I don't even want to talk to you, frankly. But if it's from your heart, if you care to make the world a better place or make people's lives a better place, look, there's a way, and it's not difficult. The reason I'm writing the book that comes out later this year called Impact Driven Branding, 7 steps to ensure your brand impacts people's lives and the world. It's not a book about branding. It's not going to go on with Pablum and Apple does this and Microsoft. It's not going to do that. It is a how-to. Step 1, here's what it looks like. Here's an example. Step 2, Nobody teaches you that. And the world needs it. And I've been doing this for 45 years. It's about ding dang time. I don't know if they have that expression in Australia, but it is about time that you had a source that would say, look, it's just a process. It's not some airy fairy baloney like big company CEOs that are financial guys think, because they don't think marketing, they think marketing is hooey. But when you show those guys who build pipelines through jungles or oil platforms in the North Sea or, whatever they do, that branding is a process just like that. And this is a step, and this is a step, and there's the timeline. They go, I never thought of branding like that before. Huh. And they convert. And then our agency got hired. So you can see what I was doing for 20 years. But now I don't do that anymore. I work with individuals, the ones who are listening to your podcast right now, because everyone gets to benefit from this. So the other two easy ones, how do you stay on budget? Every creative project has a project that, somebody's got to think of an idea or a look or words or something, can go left or right and waste a crap load of time and a lot of money. And the way you prevent that is by writing a creative project brief in advance, handing it to the creative person, team. It was the agency, it was a team. Here it might be a logo designer or a content strategist or a person who's going to create your posts on 3 social media platforms. You're posting editorial calendar for the next 6 months, whatever it is, or what you're going to talk about on your clubhouse room. You write a brief, who we're targeting, what the effect is, what is the barrier that we must overcome. And if we don't overcome it, the brand loses and everybody loses, particularly the people that would have benefited from letting the brand into their life. What is that? Identifying it is the first thing, and then clearly writing it. Because you can't, if you don't do those things, you can't overcome it. And the idea is to overcome the barrier with the creative. If the example, really common one, the perception of parity. I'm working with a woman who's a really unique life coach. Yeah, it's kind of like saying I'm a financial advisor. It's like there's zillions of them, and aren't they all the same? It's that perception, like that they're all the same, until you overcome that barrier and give them a reason to go, so you do that, huh? No, I never heard of that. Whatever. You have to overcome the barrier, whether it's the perception of parity or whether it's I don't believe I'm vulnerable. I'm too small. I have clients who target 1 to 10 people companies, and they think they're too small for some internet criminal to come in and get into their computer and steal stuff. Boy, are they wrong, but they don't think they're wrong. They're busy. That's it. And you have to overcome the barrier or you'll never get in, Okay, so a creative brief for any creative project, big, the biggest ones I have are, there's a website that exists and we've redefined the brand. Actually, we don't say that. We say we've defined the desired brand, the brand they must become to really make impacts. And so we have to make sure the desired brand lives on the website, not that brand that it looked like when we started. And so you have to say, okay, here's the way it's structured. Here's the nav bar, and here's the new nav bar. Here's the new names. Here, we're going to move this under this because not going to, whatever. Here's the new structure. And then here's what really needs to happen on this page. It's all guidance. And then here's the approved copy. And you give it to somebody to do a layout with approved copy, not like do some layouts and then we'll come up with some copy. That's backwards and it wastes a lot of money and a lot of time. Don't do it. Okay, sorry. I ran an agency. Believe me, it doesn't take more than 1 month. When you get these reports of how much time your creative people spent on clients, and you have to either charge the clients or eat it, it only takes 1 month. And you learn, write a really tight brief and say to them, do not bring me anything and charge me for any time for anything that does not meet this brief. It's heaven. And we can all do it. You know, a brief, it doesn't have to be long. It can be a brief. Okay. But it works for anything. It works for copy. It works for writing books. Right now, I'm involved with, I think, 5 different clients. I just finished just this week writing with the client the titles and subtitles of their first book, of the content of chapters of their first book. We had created a brief for the book. What does this have to do? Who's the target? What's the barrier that needs to be overcome? You know, what has to be in this book? We did that. And then we said, okay, well, if those are the objectives in priority order, what are the strategies? Are we going to have a QR code where you pop up and speak to them on video, or so they get to know your heart? You know, do we give them an exercise? Like, what are the strategies to help make this book come alive for them? And then we said, okay, what needs to happen in chapter 1? We kind of themed the chapters of what needs to happen. And then we worked on naming them. And I'm telling you, if I read you the title of the book and the subtitle of the book, and then the title and subtitle of each chapter, you would go, oh, that's a phenomenal book.
Well, okay.
Now they get to write it. And the next step is, let's bullet point what goes in chapter 1. Is it the story of the fish? You know, you're going to tell a thing. Do they have to do, you know, what goes in there? And we bullet point that. And then one of two things happens. Either somebody interviews them and writes the chapter, gives it to me. I make sure it's brand congruent, and then we work on it. And then we show the client and go, there it is. And they go, wow, all right, let's change that word. Okay, fine. Boom, there's one. You do that 9 times, you have a book. But every time you do it, you have a lunch speech or something, right? So and then we publish them. We do the same thing. We create a creative brief for the cover because that's a creative project. What needs to happen on the cover? If I showed you a couple of covers and showed you the creative briefs, you'd go, I totally get this. You know, it's like, oh my God. It's like you said that you needed this. Now it's just words on a paper, but look at how it came alive. It helps you select the testimonials on the back and how you snipe the book to overcome the barrier. And oh my gosh, that's crazy. Well, it's just a process, Rose. And I've done this for 45 years. Obviously, I love it. I get excited about it. And I go into the zone of a client. So creative. So, you know, how do you keep on track? You define language of brand up front, because then there is a track and you have a vision and you stick with that vision and you consistent language that transfers energy. If you keep changing the language, you're off track. So consistent language. How do you stay on budget? You write a creative brief for each creative project before it starts. So it's really clear what has to happen, the barrier you have to overcome, what has to be in there, you know, because if you come, oh, you know what? Can you add the dog? Sorry, don't do, no piecemealing. You will just drive the cost through. Sure. It's like called change order. No. You know, if you've ever done real estate, it's like, that's where they make their money. They bid the building low, and then they know there's going to be 100,000 change orders, and that's where they make their money. It's like, don't do it. Just don't do it. Okay. How do you keep creative fresh? Good question. How do you choose creative in the first place? It sounds redundant, but a creative, the word is creative brief, creative project, if it's a specific project. Let's say it's a logo. That's something that has, could be a lot of things, right? So you write a creative brief that says, this is the brand, this is the name, this is the tagline, this is what it stands for. These are the three characteristics that it must get credit for on first impression. Rich, give me an example. Truth telling. Really? Caring. Empathetic listening. How do you get credit for those? Well, in a logo. Well, if you come to my next half day, which doesn't happen until July twice, the 21st and the 26th, at the end of the half day for the last 20 minutes, I do a super course quick on logos. What makes good logos? And it includes what makes a good brand name. You know, it says what it does, easy to say, easy to spell, easy to remember, and has legs. Says what it does and has legs are usually the two missing pieces, and they're the strategic pieces. And it's like, so you explain in the brief, this is the legs that we need from this logo. This is the way we're going to overcome the barrier, or this is a barrier we need to overcome, need a way to do it. And we think it might, you know, be this way. So it's up to who writes the brief to kind of think through that. Don't just throw up your hands and go, I don't know, think about it. So I have a client who's a financial advisor, and he came to me and said, I have a different target, I have a different language, I have a different purpose, but I'm coming across because I'm trained to be like everybody else. And I want to do this at a higher level. We created a brand for him, and the logo brief said, you may not give me anything that looks like one of the financial services companies. You know, they're typically horizontal boxes with two names, right? I'm not going to say any names or I'll get in trouble, but you know the drill. It's like, oh yeah, it's another one of them. Oh, it's like one of them. I literally said, you can give me anything you think will meet this brief, but I am insisting on a treatment that is a seal, like the seal of an institution, of a university. And with these words on it of what we stand for, that tell people that this doesn't smell and sound like one of those guys. Educating, protecting, stewarding, a saver's wealth advocate. It's like, it doesn't smell like, what's his name? Like something Jones or those other guys. You know, it's like, doesn't smell like that. Use colors that would be appreciated by his wealthy target market. I'm telling you, he doesn't look like anybody. People rarely go, how did you do that? If I showed you all the things we got to before I said, yep, you go, how did you know? Well, I don't know. look, you know, when you've done it for 45 years, it's like, I'm not a creative director. I'm not a designer. I don't do, I understand how important fonts are, but I am not the guy. I'm not the guy. I have guys who are the guys. I'm not the guy, but I know how important it is. And so I know that if the center of calmness, for example, needed pinstripes because he's corporate and he's going to sell his services to corporate HR departments, there needs to be pinstripes. You need to, in my phrase was pinstripes in the logo. Somewhere it needs to feel like it's a business for business, not just for helping people be less stressed. And so
anyway, we used so enlightening. I learned a lot. Absolutely learned so much, Rich, from you about brand and branding and being creative and how to stay on budget and how to stay on track. That was really important. I really like that part of
usually there's not a track. That's the problem.
That's
right.
The
problem is get a track.
That's right.
Then you can stay on it. That's seriously.
That's correct. Now, where can people find you, Rich, if they'd like to work with you?
You know, I want to give everyone who hears this something that will touch their lives in a positive way. And I'm going to give you two things. So, and if you need me to type these in the chat, I will. Email me. My name is Rich. That's not too difficult. At Rich Brands. It's who I am and what I do. Rich Brands, BRANDS .org. So Rich at richbrands.org and just say blueprint. I will send you your impact-driven branding blueprint. It'll say, here are the 7 steps on page 1. And then each page after that will take one of the steps and explain in my voice what you can do to think about this differently and do it differently and build more impact faster and get faster to, the attracting exactly what you want to attract. So rich@richbrands.org blueprint. The other one is a website, and it has a free set. It's only 18 minutes total of short videos in straight talk. That's the first thing you ask me. Don't talk to me in jargon and tell me straight about branding. So there are these very common, let's call them FAQs, frequently asked questions about branding. And I did 8 of them. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, total 18 minutes. thebrandyoubecome.com. That's it. thebrandyoubecome, YOU.
Yeah, I've got those details.
thebrandyoubecome.com. It'll ask you for your email address because we're going to email you a link. And then you click the link and you get the videos. It answers common questions. And if you're a person, if you're impact driven, if you happen to be a person of faith, number 8 is where God lives. So you can go right there and listen to why Rich Brands really wants to work with people who want to make an impact on others, make the world a better place. Those are the 2 gifts, free
Lovely.
set. So please bless yourselves, and whoever's listening, you may share them so that others can have them too. That's part of my give back. It's part of my legacy. And more people should know that they can be the champion of their own brand and literally race to being more significant, more effective, and literally have a way with this 7-step process to get access to your own authenticity, because your brand is you, and nobody should be slapping something on you that you have to create.
Absolutely not. And I totally agree.
You like that? Good for you. I'm glad you agree.
Rich, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time today. It's been a delight.
Rose, I feel the same way. And thank you. I honor the opportunity. Thank you for what you do. People who need tips need places to get tips. And so thank you for creating Talking with the Expert that gives about all things business. Thank you. I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.